Okay, welcome to a very, very hot afternoon. And I'm sorry if I'm going to be sneezing through this session because I'm suffering with hay fever. But I would like to introduce you to the NFT panel. I'm delighted to have our four guests. My name is Lisa Gibbons. I'm a journalist in the world of Web3. I run blockleaders.io with my colleague Gillian Godsell. And I also write for some of the leading publications, Grit Daily, Crypto Slate, etc. So I have interviewed a lot of NFT experts over the last 2 years. And just to give a few stats on the space so we know what we're looking at, and I'll let the guys explain what NFTs are and the potential use cases for the future. But I did a news piece last week on the state of NFTs. And a really interesting stat that stood out to me was 58% of all crypto wallets in Central and South Asia and the Oceania region have NFTs. So that's 58%, that's nearly 60% of everyone in Central and South Asia and Oceania that have NFTs associated with their wallet addresses. That was from Chain Analysis, a research report that came out last week, and I think it kind of sets the tone quite nicely. Another stat is there are 2.5 million NFT holders overall. That's a quarter of all the MetaMask wallets worldwide. So it's fair to say that NFTs are important to the future of crypto. And I'm very pleased to support the NFT world in the world of Web3. So just to introduce our panel, I'll let them introduce themselves because we have a few last-minute additions. But Alberto, if you'd like to start off and introduce yourself. Hello? It's not working. Here.
Now, yeah. Okay. My name is Alberto Toribio, and I am institutional relations responsible on Cryptoplaza, one of the largest speaking Spanish crypto communities. And here I'm representing POPE because, well, POPE are the letters of Proof of Attendance Protocol, and we have launched a new project with them, which is called POAP Spain.
Hi, I'm Tim. I started my NFT journey as a crypto artist back in early 2020. I produce a lot of work or publish my work on places like Nifty Gateway and Super Rare. I started doing collaborations with artists like Carl Cox and Amnesia. We developed a physical NFT, which is a medallion with an RFID chip. And after that, and that actual medallion gets you access into the club and VIP. So it's kind of like the first physical NFT utility. After that, I started doing a lot of consulting, and then I created a project called DJenerates, which is a theme-based NFT project in the electronic music industry. Currently, it creates or it works on experiences in real life and in the metaverse, and we're also a career launch pad. So artists that have our NFT get opportunities to get through a certain round of competitions. And for instance, next month, one of our artists, who's one of our NFT holders, gets to DJ at Amnesia's closing party with Chemical Brothers.
Hi, my name is Payas. I'm a Web3 lawyer at Hassans International Law Firm. We've been covering everything to do with crypto since 2017, so anything from token sales to foundations, crypto funds, DLT licenses, the whole lot. The only other thing I can say about myself is that I pretend to be an ape, which appears here behind me, so that is my claim to fame at the moment.
GM. So my name is Vikram. I'm the surprise guest. It was a surprise to me as well. By day, his partner, the partner of all of those esteemed people at Hassans, corporate, commercial, private client, DLT lawyer. I think I've done a fair bit in the space. In my evenings, I am a Web3 builder and entrepreneur. And at night, I am a DJen. I collect a lot of NFT art, quite a lot.
A whale. We have a whale in the room, everybody.
No. I didn't get a chance to put my ape or CloneX up, but it's a pleasure. This is a fantastic space. It's I think, bleeding edge of blockchain, and there is a lot of innovation happening. So looking forward to this panel. Thank you.
Super. And just to get a read of the room, actually, just a comment, a note. There's a lot of lawyers in, in the crypto space in Gibraltar. So who here has minted an NFT or created an NFT? Good few. Amazing. And who here has collected an NFT or several NFTs? Again, about 20, maybe 25%. Yeah, it's the same kind of show of hands. I've done several conferences over the last year, and there's usually a large portion in the room that are both consider themselves artists and creators at the same time. I think that's like drastically changed the way we see ourselves. So my first question, I suppose, to the panel, and this goes to everyone, has the NFT bubble burst? What are we looking at?
Well, to understand if we are before or in a bubble or not, let me explain a couple of concepts. The first one is the Maslow Pyramid. It's a way to explain the needs and the worries of the people in the societies. For example, at the bottom of this pyramid, we have things like safety and get food, for example. And on the top, we get worries like, for example, how we fit on a society. Well, what we are seeing nowadays is the creation of a contraculture. Crypto is now contraculture like hippies were in 70s, for example. The contraculture usually needs a way of express themselves, and NFTs are basically a way to express from people from this contraculture. Hippies introduced in the main culture and the incumbents things as important as, for example, the divorce or the abortion. And this doesn't mean we nowadays are all hippies, but they introduce some terms in the society. Now, crypto is a contraculture introducing some terms, like, for example, the money sovereign and the libertarian concepts. And, well, NFTs are a way to express, a way of expression for this contraculture. Another thing we find on this NFT space are NFTs related with other things, like, for example, to represent a ticket or whatever. We differentiate two different trends here. The first one is digital transformation, is to use NFTs to represent tickets or things like that. And the other one is things are disruptive with NFTs. For example, NFTs associated with art is disruptive in terms of culture. And also NFTs related with other things like gaming is disruptive. And this is, if you understand this whole picture, we see that we are, in my opinion, not in a bubble. We are at the beginning of something, at the beginning of the creation of new contraculture, at the beginning of the transformation of the society, and some concepts, they are disruptive.
Sorry. Great timing.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Alberto. And that's why it's important to lay out the different sectors or verticals of NFTs. You could almost say that, yeah, we had an art bubble, okay? So that was the first thing that really launched us into, high exposure of NFTs. And I used to say that art NFTs for crypto were like, did for the blockchain what porn did for the internet. It was, that's what really brought it to the forefront. But as Alberto said, we've got other things. We've got virtual assets. We've got property ownership. We've got ticketing. We've got ENS domains. And so right now, ENS domains as NFTs are probably doing better than they ever had. So are we in a bubble? I don't think it applies. It's not something we can widespread across the whole ecosystem. So yeah, that's mine.
Yeah, you've covered the points that I wanted to cover. I wanted to say just like an hour and a half ago, there was an article published by Cointelegraph talking about how there seems to be an increase in activity in the NFT market again. A lot of exciting, for me, exciting statistics, but I think 34% more users in the last 3 months only, an increase. So that type of thing tells you that this place, or the NFTs aren't going anywhere. And back to their point, I think calling this a bubble or the bursting of a bubble is, I just just think it's completely uninformed, because there's so many use cases for NFTs that it's not a case of something rising in value and falling. There's always going to be people creating and being innovative and coming up with new NFTs. So that is always going to carry on. So I don't see this as a like tulip mania where there's a bubble and a bust. It's no such thing. It's not a comparable.
I think I'd just add, so we all know about asset class theories, and you see in every asset class you will see bubbles. So there is an argument to be made that, as with any asset class, you will see bubbles, you will see highs, you will see lows, and it's all about pricing and valuation. But one thing that we've seen, which is quite particular about the NFT space, is that people think in ETH terms. So, you'll drop an ETH to buy an NFT, but you'll think twice about paying $400 to upgrade from economy to business. It's just a completely different, perhaps degen way of thinking. But you've seen also in the last few weeks when traditional asset classes have really been testing that bubble theory, ETH prices of certain blue chip NFTs have really held up. So Bored Apes went from a floor of about 110 ETH a few weeks ago. They're now down to about 80 ETH. That's still a pretty good resolution, if you like, if you're thinking in ETH terms. If you're thinking in dollar terms, then of course I think we're, like every other asset class, the bubble is close to bursting.
Does everyone on the panel have an ape? Tim sold, just in case you didn't hear that. So what I will ask is for creators, and I like what you're saying, and I actually don't believe it's a bubble. I agree with Alberto, actually, that we're at the beginning. And I didn't get in 2017 to the Bitcoin boom, and when things are really taking off, a few of my friends did in Ireland and did quite well, but I got in very early with the NFT space, and that's what held me to the world of Web3, really, because I was interested in the projects. So what I will say for creators out there, and I know there's a few in the room today that are just at the edge and thinking about stepping into the space, what advice would you give to people who are on the edge and saying, well, maybe I could do something in the space?
Do you mean as creators or just as investors?
Both, I would say, both.
Okay, well, I might speak from the creator standpoint. And I think what's really important is that it's almost like when social media first came around and people didn't quite know how to, approach it. And some of the best work agencies did, or a new stream of agency work, was strategy. And so it's very much the same now. If you're an artist coming into the space, it's really important to understand the space first, understand the community factor, and then build yourself out a strategy. A lot of people, obviously, because of the burst that we had, see the space as just a way to as a quite lucrative endeavor for an art career that may not, in the past have, been something you could live off. And so that's really appealing, right? And so what that does is it causes a rush. People just want to rush in. But the people that take a step back and create a really thought-out strategy are the ones that are able to penetrate some of those gates. I mean, the space itself, especially in the art side, has a lot of gatekeepers. I mean, there's fantastic traditional artists out there, and they still can't get onto places like Super Rare or Nifty. The other thing, in terms of that strategy, there's a lot of things you could cover, but if I was to give one bit of advice to new artists entering it, I'd say look at your smart contract. You don't necessarily just need to go to OpenSea and mint. It might be smarter to, visit somewhere or speak to the guys at Manifold or Nifty Kit and create your own smart contract, because we're beyond that place now where the tools weren't available for artists and the only choice we had was to go to OpenSea or a curated market. Now we can be a little bit smarter about it, smart contract, and really set yourself up for the future, because a lot of collectors, they're the things that they look at. They're looking at the smart contract, and they're looking at you as an artist and as a brand and how you'll grow.
Well, if your question is why an artist, for example, should be interested on entering on this space is the artists usually have no the chance of creating something disruptive. What we are seeing nowadays is the creation of new luxury brands, like for example Bored Apes or CryptoPunks. And when you are a technology entrepreneur, you probably have more chance to create something disruptive as if you are an artist. But nowadays, artists has the ability to create new luxury brand, and this is something not seen since 60s, where when Louis Vuitton was created, for example. This is a reason to enter on this space. And the other reason, if you are a big corporation, is to explore new business models, like, for example, the reselling of tickets in a secondary market, if you are, for example, a ticket issuer, or, well, the digital transformation. But in my opinion, opportunities related with culture and also gaming are more interesting because there are more opportunities to create things disruptive and not just digital transformation. It's the same thing as when we talk about blockchain and crypto. Blockchain is interesting, of course, but we are talking about digital transformation, traceability, identity, things like that. With crypto, we are talking about monetary startups, things with the potential to replace a bank or replace even a currency. So even when they are just experiments nowadays, they have the potential to do that. In the case of the NFTs, we have the same scenario.
Yeah, I guess on the investment side, it's the same advice you would give anyone who's starting off wanting to invest, even in a relatively safe market. Clearly, crypto and NFTs are a very volatile, very risky markets to invest in. If it's your first step into this world, then do a lot of research. I think do your own research. DYOR is almost not good enough for someone who's entering the space, because you need a period of time where you're getting familiar with blockchain, crypto, the technology, then familiar with how the whole industry operates, and then start looking at where you want to invest. But even then, there's security hazards, there's rug pulls, there's projects that promise a lot and then never deliver anything. And I just think probably if it's your first step into investing your savings or investing in any shape or form, probably NFTs is not the place you want to start with. We had the same issue with cryptocurrencies. Everyone had heard of the story where someone had put in £1,000 into a particular token and now had 100,000. But they probably, unless you know Vikram, probably you haven't met anyone who's done that type of trade before. So I think NFTs, in terms of an investment, is probably not where you want to go as a beginner. But if you do like the idea of owning some digital art, then probably, yeah, educate yourself and maybe buy something that you like more than anything. Something that, even if it drops down in value or there's no resale, at least it's something which you're happy to own. That's the only advice.
I agree, and I think it can be sometimes associated with a personal choice or a personal relationship, even in the NFT space, right? So you have a lot of creators and collectors up here. I know Tim quite well now. I want one of his pieces because I want to support him. So there's a support role that comes into it as well. You know, once you have some kind of relationship or some kind of following, you know, you're following these NFT artists that are doing amazing work. So you mentioned something earlier that my ears pricked up, the liquidity side of NFTs. Can you explain a little bit to the audience? Because I think they'll understand more than me and you guys. But do you want to explain what we were talking about earlier?
Yeah, for sure. One trend in the space of the NFTs we have on the table right now is the providing of liquidity to the NFTs. We have created a new kind of asset. In fact, we call some of NFTs blue chips, just because the market evaluates it in some way. But the problem here is we are not able to evaluate because there is no order book in which we found a limit order just waiting with money up front, like it occurs in the case of the Bitcoin. So we know exactly what's the price of a Bitcoin. So one innovation is happening right now is protocols providing smart ways of making liquid these NFTs. Some cases are related, for example, with to put or block money up front. For example, if in a protocol, for example, to evaluate an NFT. So since the ETH is blocked in a protocol, we can evaluate the NFT in some way. The evaluation is the ETH block on that protocol. Other ways are, for example, the participation of third parties, investors. All of this is amazing because probably in 1 or 2 years, probably less, we are going to see a liquid market of NFTs, the possibility of put your NFT as collateral to operate in a derivative market as we do right now with USDC in DYDX, for example, or to take a loan against your NFT without the need of selling that. Think about what it means in terms of valuation, offer, and demand. Well, if you don't need to sell your NFT to get liquidity, it produces a lot of changes on this market. So that's because I particularly bullish about NFTs in general, and particularly on the blue chips and protocols created around that.
Yeah, I think all of these services and platforms, Abacus and NFT Pie, are really important for the space. But I also think, you've got to do your own research, because currently they're great for verified contracts or for verified collections. But if you go there thinking that you can stake or get some collateral against your NFT and it's not verified, then you just may be stuck without any liquidity. So there are concerns for that space, but I also think the thing that's exciting about it is that there's initiatives and there's innovation in that area, which is what we need to create a full ecosystem which makes people feel safe about trading.
Yeah, and I guess something to add as well, it doesn't always have to be an investment. So for me, my Bored Ape was part investment because for me, the ape was an investment into Yuga Labs as well, which I see as the strongest Web3 company out there. But there can also be other reasons for purchasing an NFT. So the second reason why I bought the Bored Ape was because I'm trying to create my own brand around it. So I'm trying to create this Web3 lawyer brand around the ape. And with it comes a whole host of different ideas. So I've worked with a team of developers in Italy who have created a 3D avatar of the ape. And I plan to use that to record presentations and who knows what else I'll be able to do with the ape. But just creating just from one NFT, and it's not even a 3D NFT, there's so much more that you can create. You can create the narrative, you can create the story. And in this space, it's a very good way to just expand your network, to gain more. It works for business development, but also just to help build with everyone else in the space. So that is also another side of NFTs, which I've found is probably more exciting than the investment bit. I think if you want to invest your money safely, then you probably have better options than just going into an NFT. So that's part of the reason why, or another reason why you could enter the world of NFTs.
I think that's really relevant for the likes of me. So anyone who's come from a traditional marketing background, where you're using Facebook, Instagram, Telegram, the normal Discord, whatever channels you do to market your projects and to market your campaigns, if you can use an ape, then you've got immediate eyes on a project and a brand or a product or service. So it's pretty cool. I've seen them do it a lot with doodles. Don't know if anyone heard of doodles. They made noodles. Like one of the doodle guys made noodles, and he's selling noodles with his doodle. So I think I see sushi in your ape. Maybe we could do a sushi brand.
Sushi, yeah, it's a sushi chef.
Sushi
headband.
chef. Yeah, amazing. So Vikram, just for you, for any potential NFT sellers in the future, as an avid collector, someone that collects a lot, what do you look for in terms of the NFTs that you're you're looking at, you're searching for the projects that you're interested in?
That's a great question. So I think the first thing to look at, as with every investment, is the team. So you're really looking for a team that has a track record in delivering, or you study their backgrounds, you study their vision. You look at how realistic it is for them to execute on that vision. Then you look at the community, the ability to build a community, to have a community engaged. I don't look at utility so much, because it comes back to things like, when you look at liquidity, why is liquidity relevant? It's relevant if you're looking to resell. But if you're, there's so many fantastic artists out there as well who are using blockchain in very ingenious ways to deliver art, to deliver message around an art. It's iconic, it's enjoyable. So if you collect from that perspective, things like liquidity isn't important. You have historic NFTs like My Curio cards, which were one of the first art NFTs on the Ethereum blockchain. So that's something that you can hold for life and pass to the next generation. You have Artifact, which is owned by Nike. They are really pushing the edges of innovation, both from an NFT perspective and in the real world, where you get Nike goods, wearables, shoes, sneakers, which incorporate NFT technology, NFCs, to verify and validate the wearables and authenticate that they are genuine Nike wearables. So there is a lot that one looks for, but I think primarily team, vision, execution, utility, I think is more hype than anything else. But yeah.
I just want to say on that.
You think utility is, what was that last bit?
I think too much is made around utility. So a lot of people talk about what is the utility of a token. I think we are seeing fantastic innovation around NFT technology. And look, I've filed a patent on a very innovative use case for NFTs. And I think a lot of people are doing the same, and we're so early in terms of the application of this technology and delivering art, delivering the previous panel, metaverse, gaming experiences, real-world experiences in a completely different way, that I think we need to think about utility differently in the way that it is currently used in the NFT space.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think one of the problems with utility is the future-proof nature, or the non-future-proof nature of utility. A lot of utility gets embedded into a project, but that utility is dependent on maybe the founder or the expiration of an event. So, if you're looking at purchasing an NFT because you get to go to a seminar or meet and greet the founder, well, when that founder's not around anymore, you've suddenly got no secondary sale value. So one of the good things to look at when a project is selling utility is look at the future-proof and the authentic nature of the utility. Really dig deep into what does that mean. And the communities and the discords are there for a reason. So you can go in there and you can actually ask. Put them against the wall and say, well, what does that mean? And what happens if this happens? Because when the art NFTs took off, the next narrative that came from generally influencers who couldn't create art was, we've got utility. But when you really looked at that utility, it had an expiration date. So I'm really excited, though, about exploring what you can do with, say, the smart contracts or the metadata, or building stories into your metadata, because the metadata becomes another whole layer of the artwork, which is yet to even be explored. So I think that's an exciting place for us to start looking at.
That's great. Can we, because we're going to finish up in 5 minutes, I just want to get around to everyone to ask, what is the most exciting use case or innovation about NFTs? Vikram mentioned wearables, which I'm quite excited about, and the fashion industry. What are you, all of you, most excited about to see to come in the next 12 months?
The next for the NFT market, well, I think the narrative is something very important in every market, and we haven't a narrative right now. For example, think about before of COVID-19. When the market go down, the narrative is the telework is going to be the big thing after the COVID-19, and Microsoft and other technological firms rise on the middle of the pandemic. Well, this is a thing interesting about narratives. It depicts, it deviate the trend of a group of companies or an asset from the trend of the market. And we have a narrative right now in crypto. That's because macro is so important nowadays. So what's the next? Because if merge, it doesn't seem that it's going to be the narrative. I think we are going to see a strong narratives around NFTs, and particularly around...
You can shout.
Particularly around the creation of markets around NFTs, liquidity providing to make liquid an asset. And well, I disagree with some things you told before. For example, what's the reasons I used to invest in a project, for example, and related with the next scenario, and the reason I think the NFTs are going to be the next big thing. Think about, for example, the Gioconda. Why the Gioconda is one of the most valuable picture arts in the world. For example, the Gioconda was stolen years ago, and the press media covered that success, that as an issue, okay, and the Gioconda suddenly gets very popular. Well, think about an artwork very popular here in Spain, well, in Spain, let's to say in Spain, and another art of work very popular in Uganda or in a country of Africa. Very popular, but just there. What of these two arts are more valuable? Probably the artwork very popular in Spain. Why? Because it's very popular and because the power purchasing of people here in Spain is more. Okay, so I think these are, for me, the reasons I used to invest in an NFT project, for example, and the liquidity is something the market usually evaluates. For example, if you have a house and you can sell it tomorrow, probably the price of the house is higher than a house you cannot sell in 10 years, even when the house is very beautiful and whatever, and even when your purpose is to live in that house. But anyway, the market evaluates that project in a different way. Well, just to resume, for me, the next big thing is the liquidity, and this is probably going to be a new narrative in crypto.
Thank you.
One of the innovations that I'm quite interested in is Soulbound tokens, so non-transferable tokens. I think they'll be something that, they're not going to be for flippers, but they provide a really important layer to the ecosystem, and it kind of demonstrates how fertile the Ethereum ecosystem is, because that'll be a solution. And if you haven't heard of Soulbound tokens, they're non-transferable, so you can't buy them, you can't sell them, you can't trade them. But what you can do with them is you can embed a lot of really, credentials or accreditation or personal information in them. And so you could imagine, what kind of applications they'll have across government and the health sector and a whole range of different applications. And I think, just innovations like that show that the ecosystem's not just about pump and dumping and profit and loss, really good for the whole community and the whole industry.
Yeah, my response is going to be a bit more boring. It's not something I'm excited about, but what I would like to see is more innovation around the security with proof of ownership of NFTs. So when you, for example, you own the Bored Ape to get into the Ape Fest that happened in New York in June, you needed to prove your ownership. But what happens there is that when you've got an NFT which is valuable, or maybe not that valuable, but you want to keep it secure, you keep it in cold storage. But to prove your ownership, you need to connect it to a smart contract just to show the event planners that you actually have basically your entry ticket. that always puts you at risk in terms of your in terms of your wallet and everything that's contained within it. So there's different ways around it. There's nothing which I've found or that we're aware that works really well. Recently, I entered a club and they wanted me to connect the wallet. I said, I'm not doing it, so is there another way? And I came up with the suggestion, what about if you tell me a small amount of ETH that I will move out of this wallet, so that when you tell me the amount, within 5 minutes you'll see the amount moving out. It's going to be an arbitrary number, and that way I can show you that I'm in control of that wallet. Mm-hmm. So that's how we proved ownership. So not very useful when you have thousands of people having to prove ownership, but that is something which I think is lacking at the moment.
Great opportunity for any entrepreneur in the room. Security around NFTs.
Yeah, I think, as I said earlier, wearables is an obvious one, and you're seeing a lot of fashion houses get into NFTs and create digital wearables as well for the metaverse. But the other obvious ones are gaming and ticketing. You've got Yuga Labs with the other side, and they're really reaching out to a number of projects. But I think ticketing is the big one, and you're now seeing airlines issue tickets as NFTs. I think that's where we're going to see a more widespread adoption probably over the next 12 to 18 months.
Well, that's fantastic, and that finishes off our panel nicely. I'm sorry we don't have a Q&A for this one. I love the Q&As, where it's like, oh, where did you get your ape? We'll do that the next time. Next year, Tim, or Pete will do the Q&As. So we have a strong narrative and liquidity with NFTs, soulbound tokens, security around proof of ownership, and wearables, gaming, and ticketing as the future of NFTs. That's a nice way to round off. Can we give our panel a round of applause, please? Thank you.